Hey guys, welcome back to Clownfish TV. This is Neon. I am here with Geeky Sparkles.
Hello.
And good news if you're a Spider-Man fan. It looks like we're going to get 3 more Spider-Man movies, possibly set in the MCU.
Yeah, it's definitely working with Marvel.
Yeah, so we're gonna talk about that because we don't know what state the Spider-Verse is going to be in after No Way Home.
Yeah, but we also know with the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, they had the teaser where they were just into the MCU
yeah.
with the multiverse. So shouldn't be a surprise because they already teased that they were going to do more with it.
Yeah, I know people were worried once the contract expired, the contract extension, I guess they had for Sony to lend. So weird to think about. Sony to lend Spider-Man back to Marvel to have him appear in Marvel movies. And Tom Holland had to jump in there and kind of help smooth that over before.
Is it wrong of me that I wish Sony would just take Spider-Man and just go back and go and play in their own sandbox and not tie it all into Disney?
No, I would prefer it.
Because I think Disney's going to kind of find some way to F it up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think the last couple Sony movies, Venom 2 and I think have actually been pretty decent. Morbius looks like it's going to be pretty decent. It seems like they have a pretty good roadmap of where they want to go with, all the Spider-Man characters, but I almost feel like they're tied down by MCU baggage at this point.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I just think they could do more with it if they weren't. But we also know, like I said, from the end of Venom, Let There Be Carnage, they had the post-credit scene or mid-credit scene, I forget where it was. And it was the scene where, Eddie Brock got brought into, he saw that Peter Parker was being outed as Spider-Man, which would have been at the end of the last Spider-Man film or at the beginning of the No Way Home.
Yeah.
So, it is like, you need like a film flow chart, like with strings and stuff to mark what's to what.
It was, I'll tell you the truth, it was a lot easier to follow Spider-Man movies or Spider-Man movies, X-Men movies or X-Men movies, and the Avengers were kind of their thing, and now we're trying to tie everything together, like every damn Marvel anything together into some multiverse, and I think it's going to confuse a lot of people.
Well, yeah, because now you are doing multiverse. If it was all in one universe, okay. So now it's going to get really complicated, but anyway, at least we know that we are definitely getting more Spider-Man films.
So we'll talk about that. Before we get into it any further, please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. Over 243,000 subs. Hit the subscribe button. Hoping to hit 250 by Christmas.
That would be nice. But if we can't, maybe by the New Year.
Yeah, maybe by New Year's. So thank you so much for the support. We do talk about comics, talk about Disney, talk about Marvel. We talk about the MCU. We've been talking about Spider-Man No Way Home because it looks like it's going to be kind of the end game of Spider-Man movies.
Apparently not.
So. We kind of thought, well, maybe this is their big send-off for Spider-Man. Spoiler alert, potential spoiler alert, because it's all but confirmed that they're going to bring in the previous 2 Sony Spider-Men.
Oh, but no, Andrew Garfield keeps swearing down that he's not in it.
Well, Tobey Maguire, they're pretty sure is because it was on some packaging. You could see his Spider-Man in the background.
Yeah.
On the packaging.
Well, somebody else mentioned that it's possible that maybe they just used the costumes with stunt doubles, but they had that picture with them all 3 standing together, and people said they don't think it was Photoshopped. So who the hell knows?
I don't know.
We'll know. I'll tell you what, we'll know in about 2 weeks.
Yeah, I personally think this was going to be some big reveal, and it got ruined. We, of course, know that, Dr. Octopus is going to be in it. Green Goblin's going to be in it. Sandman's going to be in it. Like, pretty much the Sinister Six, we're going to get them. I don't know if we're going to get Venom or not in this one. Probably not.
I don't know. Well, they're saying we have
Vulture,
a bunch of movies that are tied. Yeah, Vulture's going to be in Morbius.
Yeah.
I mean, they're tying it all together, and I think it's cool because Sony lately has been able to bring it. Like, Marvel's MCU movies have done, I mean, Shang-Chi was actually pretty good. I do recommend you go see it. But Eternals was a complete, blah, and Black Widow did okay. I wouldn't watch it again. And, but Sony did Venom, Let There Be Carnage, which was really good. They did the Ghostbusters Afterlife, which is really good. We have Spider-Man coming. They're actually, I have more confidence in Sony right now than I do in Disney in some ways.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I never thought I would say that, but I mean, even going back to the video games, I mean, Sony's done a lot of really stupid stuff lately in regards to PlayStation and to censorship and pandering and all that, but they did get the Spider-Man game right.
Yeah, Squid King loves that game. And we already have our tickets for Spider-Man No Way Home. Actually, this all came from, I have an article in Pirates and Princesses, but what it all came from was this on, let me block this here, on Fandango. Apparently they got an interview with Amy Pascal. Now, Amy Pascal, she's been there since they did the original ones with Tobey Maguire.
Yeah, she's been there a long time.
Yeah, so they got talking to her, and what she said was, they asked if they were going to continue to collaborate with Marvel and talk about Tom Holland, and she said, "This is not the last movie that we were going to make with Marvel. It's not the last Spider-Man movie. We are getting ready to make the next Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland and Marvel. We're thinking this as 3 films, and now we're going to go into the next 3. It's not the last of our MCU movies." So they are still working with Marvel.
But the way she worded that, it could be that the next movie, just the next one, takes place in the MCU.
But that's how I read it. They said they'd be working with Marvel, but, at least the next movie's in the MCU.
Yeah, and it could be that the next movie is the one where they decide to drop Spider-Man off in his own universe. Or, well, I mean, obviously, Tom Holland's along for this one.
Yeah, he is. But let me point out some things I caught. I'm going to go back to my article. And I talk about that down here. And I'm like, okay, so what's this mean about Tom Holland's back for one film at least? What's that mean? Well, lately there's been some comments that he's made that I was kind of, Like, for example, he made a comment about how they should bring Miles Morales in. He said in a GQ interview, maybe it's time for me to move on. Maybe that's what's best for Spider-Man. Maybe what's best for Spider-Man is that they do a Miles Morales film. I have to take Peter Parker into account as well because he's an important part of my life. If I'm playing Spider-Man after I'm 30, I've done something wrong. Now, this comes after 2 years ago when he said, I honestly would play Spider-Man until I can't walk anymore.
Yeah.
I have that. The one thing was, he sold Rotten Tomatoes. He would play Spider-Man until he can't walk anymore because it's so important to him. And now he's saying, well, maybe we should bring Miles Morales into it. That is a huge shift. Now, granted, it's been 2 years and things happened, but I'm like, his whole attitude shifted, which makes me think they're going to bring Miles Morales into it.
Well, we're dealing with the multiverse, and Into the Spider-Verse was incredibly popular. I think a lot more than people thought was going to be. And they're playing up the multiverse angle with even the kids shows. They've got Miles and Spider-Gwen and
right, and they're pushing diversity inclusion across Hollywood. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I wouldn't mind a Miles Morales Spider-Man film. I actually would like to see that
if done correctly.
Yeah, if done correctly.
Now, here's the thing. Now, Miles, made sense in the comics because they had 2 timelines going on. We had the Marvel 616, the main comic timeline, which always was Peter Parker, except when he was Dr. Octopus, but that's a whole nother thing. And then we had the Ultimate Universe, which we had a Peter Parker over there too. It was the same but different, but then that Peter Parker died, and that's where Miles Morales came into it. Are they going to kill off Tom Holland's Spider-Man?
Well, they're only saying one movie that Tom Holland's involved in for sure.
They're being very...
They're giving you what you want to hear, but they're being vague about how they're going to do it.
Yeah, so I would not, given its current year, given that maybe Sony wants to get out from underneath the thumb of the MCU.
Thumb of the mouse.
Thumb of the mouse, the big...
Does he have a thumb?
Yeah, he does.
Okay, so does he have the 5 fingers? I can't remember. No, it's Pinocchio. Pinocchio the head.
Yeah, and he's got thumbs too.
Okay. He has 4 fingers. Well,
everybody's got thumbs.
Okay.
Yeah.
They have to be able to grab things, so I guess so.
They do. Mickey has to be able to grab you by the throat and
that's right.
Shake you down for more money.
That's right.
But yeah, I could totally see them being in its current year being like, yeah, we'll do one more movie with Tom Holland, then we'll pass the torch to Miles Morales, and then we'll just kind of, we'll drop him off in some other universe, and then we'll just, run with Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen and all that stuff. I could totally see him doing it.
I think they could do it too. I think that's probably what's going to happen because Sony's got all these movies coming up. I mean, they have I have a list. Hold on. Yeah, our Mr. Milo from Pirates and Princesses had done Venom's Let There Be Carnage is coming out into video on demand pretty soon.
Yeah.
And he did an article on that here. And among that, he was talking about the different movies they have coming that are confirmed to be in development, including Night Watch, Silver Sable, The Sinister Six, Black Cat, Silk, Kraven the Hunter, Jackpot, and Prowler are all confirmed to be in some form of development, not counting, the Venom films and the Morbius one.
Out of those movies, the only ones that sound like they have any potential. Well, Kraven I could see, Black Cat I could see, Sinister Six are already setting that up, and Silver Sable maybe. But yeah, I mean, they're definitely kind of going off in their own direction. The funny thing is how we wound up in this situation with Sony having Spider-Man and all the Spider-Man characters, and then Fox had Fantastic Four and X-Men.
And Disney got that back, obviously.
Is so weird because everybody's like, oh, these are like the leftovers now, but it was at one point in time in the 90s, Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and the X-Men were the most marketable.
When they were sold, they
Yeah.
were the most marketable, bankable at the time.
So Disney had to take the B, C, and D list characters and cobble together the MCU. That's why we're getting movies like Eternals, because
I don't even put them on the alphabet. They're like
they are the alphabet.
they are the alphabet people.
They are the alphabet.
The entire alphabet.
They're the entire alphabet.
But yeah.
But they're doing that because they've run out of like A-list characters. I mean, Sony, if Sony can't make a Spider-Man universe work when Spider-Man and the X-Men carried Marvel in the 80s and 90s. Like you could just have Spider-Man and X-Men comics, and that would have been enough to bankroll Marvel back then. Throw in the Fantastic Four every once in a while, but like the Avengers were not, I mean, they were there, but they peaked kind of in the 60s and 70s, So pretty interesting.
I just think that's what they're doing. I think they're setting it up. At least there's one more MCU and one more Tom Holland at least. But they said they're going to be given 3 more movies. It makes sense because Sony's been doing all the Spider-Man universe type stuff. So it completely makes sense.
Sony is never going to give up on
Can
Spider-Man.
you blame them?
Well, yeah, because everybody's like, oh, Disney's going to buy out Sony and they're going to get Spider-Man back. It's like, hell no.
They don't have the money now.
Yeah, they don't have the money.
Once upon a time they did, but they overspent for Fox. They probably figured they were getting more with Fox because with Fox they were getting back the Fantastic Four and X-Men, and they were getting back the rights to do the original Star Wars trilogy and home video and to air it in certain ways because that was tied up with Fox. So they were getting rights back to Star Wars they needed too. They had to spend their money in one place. It makes more sense to go there, and it was for sale. I mean, Sony wasn't, so.
Yeah, so I don't know. Pretty interesting. I mean, we'll see how No Way Home is. I know some people are really split on Tom Holland's Spider-Man. They don't like that he's kind of like Junior Iron Man, which kind of bother. I like his Peter Parker, but
I do like his Peter Parker.
I don't like the idea that the way they introduced him to the MCU was as a sidekick to Tony Stark. Maybe the next couple movies will make him his own man since Tony Stark's...
Sony?
It was Sony. Yeah, and I'd like to see him past 30 because we never get to see adult Spider-Man. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up reading Spider-Man in the 80s and 90s, and he was an adult. He was married. He was in college. I think when I first started reading Spider-Man, then he got married to MJ, and then he was working, and it's like I wouldn't mind seeing the 30-year-old.
Yeah, we never get it. They always reboot it as soon as they get to we got 2 movies in, time to reboot.
Yeah, time to reboot it.
Yeah, so I don't know. But that's what's going on. We're at least getting more. So there's that little bit of take wins where you can get them, people.
All right, so we're going to wrap this up.
Yep.
Please subscribe for more pop culture news, views, and rants, guys. We'll talk later.
Bye.